Here is a little item played on MSNBC recently, and it's about the Bible getting banned in schools. Who got it banned? Christian extremists. I have said from the jump that it is in the interest of the highly religious not to push their agenda onto secular folks. It's certainly in their interest not to mix up religion and government. Why is that? Because everybody thinks it's going to be their religion, and almost nobody is right about that. A lot of different sects of Christianity, and you think you get along until you can't drink coffee anymore because it's outlawed. You think you get along until every school is required to have a supply of snakes because the governor in your state is of a particular sect of Baptist that says they need to do a faith test with snakes near them. Similarly, when bigots try to ban books to cover up crimes done by their ancestors in history and to cover up the crimes they are attempting to get away with now in the form of systematic racism, at the very least crimes against decency. When that happens, it's very clear that it's going to backfire because you cannot do what these people actually want to do, phrased as such. They have to phrase it in a way that makes it seem like they're doing something else. So they're not trying to erase the existence of gay people, they say. They are trying to remove sexuality from books available to children. Well, that's come back to bite them. Here's Mehdi Hassan talking about how one of the recent book bans just got the Bible banned.
Meme I've been thinking about a lot lately. A viral tweet that reads, and I quote, "I never thought leopards would eat my face," sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. It's an...
What, did that start as a tweet? Oh, I suppose so. Well, I'm more familiar with the subreddit, but interesting. Side note, maybe stay off Reddit for a while we pressure them to do some kind of socialist tech things that they were doing that they said they're going to stop doing to the detriment of us all. Moving on.
Adage that has been proven relevant, time and again, when the American right is forced to reckon with the consequences of its own actions. Most recently in Utah, where Republicans passed a law targeting books in school libraries that contain, quote, pornographic or indecent content. And wouldn't you know it, that very law has now been used to restrict access to, wait for it, the Bible.
With the holy book in one hand and signs in the other, frustrated parents calling out the recent decision by Davis School District that voted to remove the King James Version of the Bible from elementary and middle school libraries.
Period. Thank you very much.
The move coming after a complaint was filed with the district in December, when the district received an anonymous grievance that said the school district was ignoring, quote, one of the most sex-ridden books around, the Bible, adding that this edition of the Bible, quote, has no serious values for minors because it's pornographic by our new definition. Get this porn out of our schools.
Pausing it right there. Look at what this person's doing. On this stream, I've encouraged folks to do the same. If you have a book ban anywhere near you, do the same. It's called malicious compliance. Force the district into malicious compliance. These nightmare rules have the opportunity to bite the people who wrote them squarely, right square, in the behind. And it should. And you know what? If they get rid of the book ban, they can put the Bible back. For the record, I'm all for teaching the Bible in schools. From a dyed-in-the-wool atheist, I'm for it. Nothing wrong with it. I have a copy of the Quran somewhere in here. I moved recently. Somewhere in here. I enjoy religious texts. In fact, because I don't care to read all that much, but I love listening to audiobooks, David Suchet, Poirot from the BBC dramas, had a religious awakening later in life, and you can listen for free to David Suchet reading the Bible on the internet. I've given it 2 full listen throughs now because it's good to know. It's good to have a little culture, and being cultured isn't just about being submerged in your own culture. It's about understanding others. I'm for teaching the Bible, but I think if Jesus is as he is written in the Bible, my understanding is Jesus would be cackling and all for these Bible bans in the schools, because what a great way to use the Bible to stand up for justice. So it doesn't mean the Bible will be gone forever. It'll be back as soon as decency returns. And really, when you think about it, the Bible should only should be kept in places that are decent.
So maybe it's time to update that meme.
Maybe not. There's a lot of hotel rooms that.
I never thought they would ban my favorite book, sobs woman who voted for the book banning party.
Ba-dum-bum.
State Representative Carol Spackman Moss is a Democratic member of the Utah State House. Before running for office, she was a high school teacher for more than 30 years, and she joins me now. Representative Moss, thanks so much for coming on the show. What is your reaction to the King James Bible being taken out of some Utah school libraries? Do you support that move on the basis of, I don't know, consistency? If Republicans are going to ban books with vulgarity or sex in them, then that includes the Bible.
Yes, it was consistent. And by the way, I was an English teacher. I taught literature and writing, and I sometimes taught a unit called the Bible as literature. But the person who filed this challenge just put it out there to see if they would follow the same process and see what they're doing to other books. And boy, did the lawmakers, the Republicans, take the bait. And all this outrage they expressed in meetings. And not just outrage, but actual threats in the meeting last week, that they could charge them with, if they don't just immediately take a book out that's been challenged as pornographic, they could charge them with felonies. But
Notice what she said. That group of dingbats there took the bait. This reaction is what we wanted. A lot of times these folks need to see consequences to understand what is wrong with something. We have 74 million Americans right now who are the clasp your hands over your ears and saying na 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 when these things are explained to them calmly and politely. They don't respond to that. They need to see consequences. Now, it shouldn't be necessary to tell these folks, hey, there's something wrong with this law because it could hurt you. It shouldn't be necessary, but it is. Because that is the culture they are currently in. It's a selfish one. It is not a principled one. So, show them. Again, I encourage you. Contact your school board. If you're near one that has a book banning policy, and use the very draconian measures that has been put in place to get the Bible booted from that school district.
Bible, they said things like this is the first step toward atheism and hedonism. But all they did was the district followed their procedure of let parents and teacher review committees make a decision. And they put it in high schools only. That was it.
So do you think Utah Republicans are simply going to end up changing their own rules here to protect religious texts that they approve of? There's some talk that the Book of Mormon could be challenged next, which would be hugely controversial in Utah.
Yes, it would. It would. But what they were the person who challenged it, I assume they were pointing out is the bill is flawed because we should take everything in context at its literary value. And they're not doing that with some books. They're just saying these lines are what they call the bright line. They're pornographic. They should be taken out. No, all books that are challenged should be looked at as a whole, not by individual words or passages. And Mehdi, I just want to say they haven't discovered Shakespeare yet.
God help us all. So you spent decades as an English teacher, as you say. You mentioned Shakespeare. Yes. Big picture. What do you make of this right-wing campaign of book bannings in your state and across the country? What impact, in your view, is it having on our public schools, on the American education system?
It's a huge impact. Inordinate amount of time. In the district I taught in with 62,000 students, there have been 94 books challenged by 6 people. And this is typical. Wow. And these lists do not just come out. Many I don't think people have even read. They come from lists, groups like
Moms for Liberty, a right-wing extremist organization. She didn't address the question that Mehdi asked because I think it's an uncomfortable answer. Mehdi Hassan asked, will this make all these extremist lawmakers suddenly pull these laws off the books? No, is the answer. It won't suddenly do that. This will have to happen again and again and again. It will have to be seen as an inevitable consequence of these kinds of bans. We need to make it a hobby of ours. She's talking about Moms for Liberty there. Yeah, that's a group that's got several thousand members. I don't know, 10,000, whatever. But there's really only 11 people. Think about this. 11 people calling and making complaints to the majority of these districts. Think about that. This crowd right here, we could do this. I'm going to search for a district. Tell you what, I'll search for a district. And in an upcoming stream, we'll call together. Why not? They are AstroTurf through and through. They generate hysteria, and when they've got sufficient chaos, they use that as cover to do the most despicable things. The most horrendous right-wing fantasies get carried out during the chaos that they create. So, in answer to Mehdi's question, on her behalf, I believe the answer is no. It will not have an overnight sudden impact. But it will have an impact if this is simply what happens every time one of these book bans goes into effect. If it is simply viewed as these book bans are bad because it will hurt me. Will it cause some of them to think about the greater principles? Maybe. Maybe it will. But more importantly, it will get them to stop doing this insanity.
Moms for Liberty in Utah, Utah Parents United. It's a small but very organized group. They're the same books that have been in the canon.
I can't help but point out. I just can't help myself. What did she say? A small but very organized group.
Very organized group.
Well, shoot, who does that sound like? We don't create the chaos. But if these punks are going to create chaos like they have, well, gosh darned, there ought to be an A-team. A small but very organized group fighting the good fight. Like the Romans of old, let's learn some lessons from the people we are in conflict with. And those tactics that we see work, let's use them. But use them for our purposes, which happens to be, little things like religious liberty, little things like the right to vote, American ideals. And also, what America says it believes in, not what it does. And also, decency, like actual decency. Good lesson to learn.
The same books that have been in the canon for years. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, beloved. See, they've gone from just looking for books that have to do with the LGBTQ kids and BIPOC kids. That's the primary list. Now they're moving into established literary works. And that's where I really say we have to draw the line.
I'm not trying to rag on this lady. She's great. I like her. I would buy her I'll stereotype her here. I am assuming a cup of jasmine tea if I ever saw her at a smoky bar. But isn't it funny that we have our chosen favored hierarchy, even in kindness, even on the kind side? Oh, well, we could let him get away with going after homosexuals, but we can't let him go after black folks. Oh, but we just can't. Oh, they're coming after the Polish? Oh, that we absolutely can't have. No. From now on. And she's right. We can't let him go after the black folks. That's not the point. The point is, from now on, as principled thinkers, we need to have this reaction always, immediately, when they're going after anybody. Anybody. Because you know what they're going after in all these cases? Americans. And if they could do it around the world, and they're going to try to do it around the world. Okay, I just realized they are doing it around the world. Uganda comes to mind. They will. So the left everywhere needs to be united. That's what they fear above everything else. The only one they fear is you and your millions and millions of friends. Be united. But okay, let's listen.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent on this, time, hours and hours, instead of working on kids learning to read. See, I have many of those books. I've read them. Kids that need to make up the losses during COVID. There's so many things we need to do. And what's happening, Mehdi, is that teachers are leaving, librarians are quitting. And that's the tragedy. It's part of what I see as an overall attempt to destroy public education. Voucher bills, homeschooling, many schools, more school choice. This is one aspect, and it's very dangerous. These are our most important freedoms, the freedom to read, the freedom to speak, academic freedom, and I'm very concerned about it. And I think there will be lawsuits to follow.
And rightly so. There will be lawsuits. We'll win some, we'll lose some. And even though a lot of lefties don't like saying this, the truth is the arc of history will bend towards us. You just have to understand it doesn't bend towards us naturally. It will bend towards us because we're not going to stop fighting. And if you don't want to fight forever, if you don't want to fight for a long time, then fight hard. We're going to take some time, make some calls to districts in upcoming streams. But right now, if you happen to know of a district in your area, call them, try to get the Bible banned. And if you're a fan of the Bible, don't worry. It'll be back. Why? Because the people that are banning the Bible with these ridiculous rules don't really want the Bible banned. They're not going to fight to keep it out of schools. Crazy as it may seem, you don't have to be a psychopath on the right to like the Bible. But it will show these folks on the right that there is a consequence to the kind of insanity that they are promoting. That it's no way to run a country. And hopefully, eventually, when we wrestle, after we've wrestled the country back from them, eventually they will learn that, hey, when the lefties are in charge, life is better for everybody, including the folks who are fighting them.